open meeting law. General laws, chapter 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Wilmington Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on a link. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter meeting ID 886-0210-4608. Then press pound and press pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted, then press *9 on their telephone keypad. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. So I'll call the meeting to order. It's 7:05. The first item on the agenda is a request for determination for Deming Way.
So, Mr. Chairman, we were told by the applicant's engineer that they would not be present at the meeting tonight. And you did receive some comments from the engineering division in your packet. And those comments sort of built an argument that the recommendation is to issue a positive determination for this RDA to require a notice of intent. The project involves repaving a portion of Deming Way and peeling back a bit of the pavement, but also they are proposing to add a little bit of pavement to the roadway, and that location, it's in the floodplain and it's also within the 100-foot riverfront area. They didn't address those items in the RDA. They kind of talked about the buffer zone and not the other resource areas. Previous work was allowed under RDAs, but did not include kind of adding new disturbance to the riverfront, which would typically require an alternatives analysis and calculations, even if it's redevelopment. So I guess the recommendation here is that it actually be a positive determination so that they can submit an NOI addressing all of those things. Stormwater management permit will be required for it. And, you know, it's not that huge changes will be required from that, but they would need to sort of address what's there, what's existing, and go through that process. So I can try to answer questions about the proposal if you have any.
I feel like we have enough information, like at the map, it's, I don't know. I know what I want to say, how I want to vote. Does anybody have questions, or can we move to?
You know, there's something I forgot, and that's we should have taken attendance.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So I'll ask you to say yes, and when I call your name, Laura?
Yes.
Vinny?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Okay, and Don Pearson, yes. All right, to what you said, Laura, I'd ask if anyone else has any reason not to issue a positive determination. and ask them to submit a notice of intent as Valerie recommended. Okay, so hearing none, could I have a motion to issue a positive determination? And do we need to give a reason or reasons?
So we looked at the form, and I think it would be a +3 determination that the work proposed is subject to the Wetlands Protection Act and requires the filing of an NOI. We just need to click off that that box on the form. So I think that because the resource area, all of the resource areas were not addressed within the filing, I think that's reason enough.
Okay, good. So a motion then to issue a +3 determination for Deming Way.
So
And
moved.
Laura made the motion. May I have a second, please?
Second.
I got a second from Ron, I think.
Yes.
Okay, to the vote. Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. So I have 7:10. So we'll proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is a notice of intent for 18 Cunningham Street.
Good evening, Luke Roy, LJR Engineering. Here on behalf of the applicant and property owner, Sire Usher. This is a notice of intent that we've submitted for 18 Cunningham Street. It's for a proposed addition to an existing single-family home. I'll just share my screen here so I can bring up the plan. So this is the property at 18 Cunningham Street. We had a bordering vegetated wetland resource area delineated. Basically encompasses the northeast portion of the property here. And then we've got the 15-foot no disturb buffer and then 25-foot no build buffer. And then the 100-foot buffer. Most of the property, pretty much the entirety of the property is within the buffer. So the proposal of the applicant is to construct a 10 by 16 addition to the left-hand side of the existing home, 160 square feet. It's going to be located beyond the 25-foot no build buffer at 32 feet from the wetlands at the closest point here. And it's proposed within an existing area of maintained lawn area, basically. There's a small shed that's proposed to be removed that's in that location. We're also proposing for stormwater and recharge measure a subsurface roof drain system to capture and infiltrate the runoff from the proposed addition. And as you can see, the yard around the home is encompassed currently by fencing. There's a vinyl fence along the front part to here, and then from this part along the back is a existing chain link fence, which I believe was on the property when my client or the applicant purchased it. They'd like to keep that fence in the current location to remain as demarcation there. And as you can see in this area behind the house, it is somewhat closer to the wetlands than the 15-foot no disturb buffer. But there is this whole other portion of the property here that's not disturbed or unaltered buffer, which is proposed to remain at this time, which is certainly significantly more than the 15-foot buffer in that location. And the applicant understands as far as dumping and maintain yard waste and that kind of thing, that be a compost area be established on the yard side of the fence and not put on the wetland side. So that's basically the project. Is pretty straightforward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission might have.
Thank you. Laurie?
Sure. So I'm going to let Cameron talk about this one, but we did kind of flag a few things. We prepared a draft order if you feel inclined to consider it. And I'll let Cameron kind of speak to the items that are in there that you may want to discuss.
So we highlighted a couple of points in the draft order that we would recommend you discuss and consider. But I also want to propose a question to the commission if they're okay with the chain link fence being the demarcation remaining in the same place.
Can you summarize what you were going to tell us, and then we can include that as comments, or all of us when we talk later?
So I mean, I'm sorry, I'm losing my place.
Laura, I think that was like one of the major questions,
Alright.
one of the major items. The other thing that Cameron caught was that we would just ask the applicant's engineer to specify on the plan that the infiltration be at least 2 feet above the seasonal high groundwater. And that's a standard thing that they can just put on the plan. But otherwise, we thought it looked good. I think the only thing to discuss would probably be the existing chain link as the no disturb, which it does encompass an existing yard area that's used as yard. And it's sort of that trade-off, whether you're willing to do that trade-off of there is some area within the 15 and then there's area outside the 15 that would be left natural.
And it's currently lawn, Luke? The area that's
The area that's currently surrounded by the chain link is
Yeah.
existing lawn.
okay. So I guess we can just poll ourselves quickly. Mike, how do you feel about the chain link?
I'm fine with it.
Laura?
Yeah, if it was existing lawn, I'm fine. One thing, I know we even required fences to have like a 6-inch at the bottom gap to let critters through. So I don't know if the chain link goes all the way to the ground, but maybe they could make sure there's a gap on the bottom. And I know in the past we've required people to kind of, I don't want to say deface because that sounds bad, but to kind of do some kind of demarcation anyway. And so I don't know if we really want, maybe ask them to put a couple shrubs in that look nice if they're going to landscape that, or if they're just going to keep it with lawn, I'm fine.
Okay. Vinny, how do you feel?
No questions.
Okay.
Okay, the chain link is okay with you as it is? Alex?
Yep, no, it's fine.
Okay. I'm okay. Is there a gate in there, by the way, Luke?
I don't believe there's a gate that I saw immediately behind the house. The one thing, it does go, I believe, right all the way to the ground. But I will say that as you can see on the plan, it closes out to both sides of the house. So you shouldn't have anything that's going, if it can't get in, then it can't get, go across it. But,
Okay. I just wanted to note that On the wetland determination, delineation forms rather, the one for SP2 is actually labeled 41 Augustino Drive. Sort of one of your attachments at the end. So you probably want to have Steve swap in the correct form, or at least change the labeling.
Okay, yeah, I see on one of the sheets, he's got 18 Cunningham, and I'm not sure if something got mixed in there, but we'll certainly check on that.
Yeah, one is 18 Cunningham and the other one isn't. Do you normally put the places where the determination is made on the drawing, or is it just?
If they have like soil probe locations that are clearly flagged when we survey, we will locate those and identify them, but that's not always
Not always.
clear.
Okay.
I don't see that we located any in this case.
That would be a nice feature to have on within the information for us to be able to kind of verify that
Sure.
going forward.
Okay. It sounds as if you're okay with the condition that the infiltration is 2 feet above mean high water, or
Yes, no, not a problem with that.
okay. And we're okay with the fence remaining. So the draft conditions, Valerie, are they? I didn't get any in the packet. Is it something you want to put on the screen for us, or?
I can
Or,
stop this. Yeah.
okay.
Don, while that's going up, but just a question, do we have a history on the fence, approximately when it was built, how it came to be built that far the wrong side of the 15-foot no disturb, and how the lawn got there? I mean, is it a 30-year-old property that it's been there for forever, or was this something that was done 3 or 4 years ago and we ought to consider?
The only information I have, I believe the applicant had said that it was that way when they purchased the house. I'd have to look up, how many years that's been and look into it to know for sure how long it's been that way.
How long have they been in the house? Is it like a year or 5 years or? Or magnitude? Okay.
If it's going to take a bit of a research effort, I'd suggest that we sort of skip over it. We're all okay with the fence being in the position it's in. Maybe the thing we'd want to do in the future is where there's an encroachment, try and develop the history for the meeting. So we have the answer
Sure.
right at hand. There's nothing you can find quickly, right, Luke?
I should have it in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
2014, it looks like
Okay.
they purchased it, so about 6 years.
So it's probably been there for at least a while. And it wasn't the current homeowner that was doing anything to it.
Yeah, otherwise we'd have to maybe look at aerials or do some research as to if there was any other information in the files at the town, but we didn't see anything.
No, we didn't have anything in our files about the property, I don't think.
I'm okay with the fence.
All right. So do you want to share the order?
Yeah, I can do that. Just let me pull it up.
They'll probably just want to look at the first page, the findings, and then the unusual conditions, right? If there are any. You can probably guide us to those.
Just find it in my email. Okay, here we go. So I guess the first thing, so we took, the first thing would be the condition 22, just to revise the plan to show the 2 feet of separation from the groundwater. And then we have really all standard conditions until we get to the end. This is a pretty straightforward project. So 48 is permanent demarcation shall be in the form of the existing chain link fence shown on the plans with no gates or breaks in the fence along the rear of the property to prevent future encroachment. And that condition runs with the property.
Okay.
We took our standard number 49 for the roof runoff and just specified that it's from the proposed addition. And then 53 is the setbacks in perpetuity. We changed that a little bit to say that no disturbance shall occur beyond the chain link fence demarcation ? Because these were things that you all would be discussing in the meeting.
Okay, good. So it is the chain link fence.
Right, we'll just take that question mark right out.
Good, okay. So it sounds like we're okay with the conditions. Could we ask now if there's anyone in the audience who would like to comment on 18 Cunningham Street?
And any member of the audience, if you want to just raise your hand to let us know if you have a question or a comment, and we can take that.
We don't have to wait the 30 seconds now.
We don't have any hands raised, so I think we're set.
Just one other thing that they mentioned, they were going to be taking down the shed. Would that be appropriate to include that in the conditions?
We can include it in the description if we didn't.
I'm willing to go with an old fence, but it'd be nice to just make sure the shed came down as sort of a compromise.
In the drawing, it says existing shed to be removed, so it's coming down.
Great.
Right. We can add it into the description of the project in the order as well.
Great.
I did just have a quick question on that last condition, 53. As far as if they did ever want to, say, expand their lawn area into that other part of the property, obviously they'd have to come back with a new filing, but this isn't something that's like permanently limiting any future work into that area.
It's permanent unless you change it.
Right. Okay. Which, yeah, so they just would have to file for any work like that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Just wait out the clock here. Okay, may I have a motion then to close the public hearing for the notice of intent for 18 Cunningham Street?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Vinny made the second. I'm going to go to the vote now. Laura,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and Don, yes. I'm looking for a motion now to issue the orders order of conditions as amended,
So moved.
15 Cunningham Street. Laura made the motion, a little
Second.
second by Vinnie. I'll go to the vote now. Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. Okay,
Thank you very much.
sure, Luke. Good night.
Good night.
The next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a notice of intent for Shady Lane Drive. And I understand that we have an applicant that requests to continue.
We
To-
do. We do. The town engineer requested that this be continued to November, at which point he thought he would have some updated plans and materials to provide to the commission.
Okay, remind me what the date in November is.
It is I believe it's the 4th.
Yeah, okay. So may I have a motion to continue the public hearing for Shady Lane Drive to the November 4th meeting?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. A second, please.
Second.
Vinnie seconded. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. I'm just gonna dump some things on the floor here. Okay, the next item on the agenda is continued public hearing for 687 Main Street.
Yeah.
Hi. Are you going to speak to that, John?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. John McKenna for the applicant U-Haul. We met the last time and we're hoping to meet with the town engineer and the town officials to get more information together as to how to get this project back on track. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have that meeting at that time. I've had some family issues I've had to deal with. My dad passed just this last Saturday after a long illness, and I wasn't available. I spoke to the manager or the vice president there at U-Haul and the engineer, and I spoke to Valerie just today with regards to this application. Valerie said that she'd like to set some deadlines for some information to be put forward, and that we request to continue to the November meeting.
Okay, Valerie, can you?
Sure. Sure. So just a reminder, this project is because of a violation with pavement in the buffer zone, riverfront area, floodplain, groundwater protection district. They paved the back portion of the lot without approval. What they've submitted so far hasn't met the requirements, and we've had a hard time getting movement out of the project. So what I would recommend to the commission is that you require they provide very substantive, very regulation meeting documents for the next meeting, which the deadline is October 21st, I believe. And if that isn't the case, if that doesn't happen, then consider denying the project and beginning enforcement so that we can rectify the situation.
Okay, just for the record, can you tell us, Valerie, when we started, when the violation was issued?
I don't have the date in front of me. Let me see here. I know it was at some point over a year ago, I believe.
I'm going to say it's coming up on a year.
Yeah, it's been quite some
The
time.
first meeting that we had was it was in the end of August. And then we put forward the plans starting like in October or something like that, that we started coming on the agenda. But the initial meeting, I think, was in August when we met to discuss what to do and, you know, what needed to be done out there. And so we had to put infiltration systems in and try to improve the situation there. Then we went into the winter months, and then the COVID hit, and then we met with you again in the summertime. So I think it's been about a year, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, good. So, John, do you think you can get your clients to provide the documentation that Valerie spoke of?
Yeah, I'd hope so. I mean, we've been working on this. We had a meeting with Valerie and the town engineer I believe in August or early September. And then I thought we were making progress as to what proposals we were making and trying to get the engineers together at how to rectify this situation. My client wants to get this matter resolved. They've been doing business there for quite some time, and they want to make this thing right. You know, Valerie's been open with us, and the engineer told us what he's looking to have, and our engineer is trying to fulfill it based upon what we have for the conditions of the site. So again, I don't think what she's asking for is unreasonable. It's been a long time. We need to put forward what proposals we have and the reasons why we can't do what the town's asking us to do, and then request the required relief if it's an improvement to the situation. We're also trying to find out where the existing septic system is, and then we have to do that with cameras and other things, and that's what they're working on now. So I'm hoping to have the information by the end of this month. When I came to you the last month, we knew we needed some more information. I just didn't think the time frame that we had for the few weeks to get it in by the deadline for this meeting was going to work, but we were trying to get that. But due to unforeseen circumstance that happened within the family, it just wasn't able to pull together the meetings we need to do. So, Mr. Chairman, we're hoping we can get that information, some clear specification as to what they're looking for, and then we'll get what we can get to her. And then, as she said, if that's not sufficient, then this project has to come to some, so we can't just keep continuing this thing. So I don't think what she's asking for is unreasonable.
But
as far as deadlines, and we're trying to get this thing moving forward. So I'd agree to it for now.
appreciate your help, and sorry about your dad.
Oh, thank you, sir.
So could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for 687 Main
I
Street?
have a question first. I recall us discussing this at length last month, and I feel like we had agreed that we were hoping for some substantive progress for this month. So, and obviously it's not there. And so I feel like last month we kind of said the same thing we're going to say this month. Am I incorrect?
Well, I'll take a peek in the minutes, but I think what we've heard from Valerie is that she is going to recommend that we actually deny the project and sort of start from scratch as an enforcement, which is maybe not what was said last time.
All right. So
And what I had said was we're trying to meet with the town to get these things put forward, but due to some family situations, we weren't able to make those meetings to get all that information put forward. Some unforeseen circumstances that took my time away from this project was not allowing us to get together and to meet and to go over the information that was needed. So what I had stated was we tried to have those meetings and put that information together, and we weren't able to do it. We're hoping to do it this month to get this thing put forward, and if not, we accept, as Valerie said and the chairman said, that the deadline is now to have that done. So we don't deny that that wasn't said last month. It just wasn't able to be
stay on
accomplished.
topic and time. So just for Valerie, for this month, we're shooting for denying the project for this month, or continuing for next month and then denying it then?
My recommendation would be to have a deadline of October 21st for them to submit good quality materials that meet the requirements, so that you can review something that gets this project closer to approval. And if that doesn't happen, that you deny the project at the next meeting. So I would say continuing to the next. We didn't set firm rules like that at the last meeting. So I would say talking about this sort of setup, this deadline, and the fact that there would be a denial at the next and enforcement action, I feel like that's fair.
Okay. Can we specify kind of specifically what we're looking for them for the October 21st deadline? Like what specific things we're looking for, or just substantive?
So there were previous comment letters that went out to the applicant. They're probably a couple months old now, that still need to be addressed. So they do have those items kind of in front of them, in the form of comments from engineering and from our department.
So then we're going to say continue, set the deadline for them, and then address all the comments. And were we hoping to see anything beyond that?
That's up to you guys. If they do get materials in by the 21st, we're going to review them for substance. And, so we're not going to, if they give us just something to give us to meet the deadline, we're going to kind of see that. And then, but if they give us something of substance that gets closer to meeting the requirements, and we can work with it and kind of keep the momentum going, that would be the goal, so that we don't have to start from scratch, like Don said.
And I'd leave that to Valerie and engineering to sort of make the call as to whether they've been, they've met the sort of tolerance for
Right.
substantive,
Didn't want to leave it like totally arbitrary, that there are specific things that you're looking for. Yeah.
There are, it's tricky because we can't make their arguments for them. They need to make them.
No, I know there is some measure of interpretation, but I just wanted to make sure there were specific things that we can point to that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think those comment letters are what we would point the applicant to. And if they have any questions about those, as always, they can reach out and we can go over those.
Okay. All right, I'm good.
I think I neglected to ask if there was any request for an audience from the audience. Any public questions? Feedback?
If you have any questions, please just use your raise hand feature on the screen.
Okay, let's move to the motion to continue the public hearing for 687 Main Street to November 4th.
With the
Anyone
requirements that we
anyone like
discussed.
to make that motion?
So moved.
Laura made the motion. Second, please.
Second, let's keep it going.
Vinny seconded the motion. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. Thanks. See you next month.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for that interruption. Thank you, Valerie. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the continued public hearing for 378, 384 Middlesex Ave and 200 Jefferson Road.
And Mr. Chairman, we did receive a request to continue to the November 4th meeting to give them a little bit more time.
Did you also say that there would be some input from KP Law on the
I did, but
regulations?
since they requested to continue, KP Law is taking a little bit more time to work on that opinion, but they will have it to you for consideration for the next meeting.
Okay, and are they sharing that with the applicant as well, or is it
Yeah, we would share it with the applicant for sure.
at that time?
Yeah, once we receive it.
Good. Okay. Any other questions about that from the commissioners? Anyone from the audience like to have a say? Okay, hearing none. Could I have a motion to continue the public hearing for the notice of intent for 378, 384 Middlesex Road and 200 Jefferson, Middlesex
moved.
Ave and 200 Jefferson Road?
Second, Vinny got the motion.
Vinnie made the motion and Laura seconded it. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex?
Yep.
Don, yes. Okay. So the time is 7:44 and we're 4 minutes behind the timeline on the agenda.
I think we can make it up.
Okay, the first of the requests for a certificate of compliance for 205 Aldrich Road. I understand the applicant has asked to table it to November 4th.
That's correct.
Okay. So could I have a motion to table the request for certificate of compliance for 205 Aldrich Road to November 4th? Laura made the motion.
Yep.
Second, was that you, Ron? Did you second it or?
I'm happy to, but no, it wasn't.
All right, thank you very much. Ron seconded it. Laura, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. On to a request for a certificate of compliance for 70 Taplin Ave.
So I conducted a site visit out there late last week. The property looked pretty well established, and they've also given us everything that we requested. So I believe it's ready to issue.
Okay. My copy of the request had the as-built for the Beltwell properties attached to it and not the as-built for 70 Taplin Ave. So I wonder if you mind sharing that, the as-built for 70 Taplin?
Sure, let me see if I can pull that up. So bear with me, I just have to find it in my emails.
Well, it would be from Greg Saab,
Yeah.
probably back in August.
I'm having some trouble, and I'm even considering holding my copy up to the screen.
Do it.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not backwards.
All right. Let me find you again. Here you are. So let's see how this works. It's not so great, is it?
We were talking about a fence on one side, was it?
We're talking about a fence on one side. The other part of it was just that, if you remember, they cleared a portion of the vegetation in the paper street,
Yeah,
and they had to come back to amend the order to do the restoration of that. So they also submitted the restoration report with this, and that's what it was on last month's. Oh, you know what? I know where I can find the plan.
Now, you know what? I have it up. Can I share my screen
Sure.
if I do it right?
So we had it on our agenda last month, but we needed that last monitoring report to close it out.
Is that showing on everybody's screen?
yes.
It is.
Kathy.
Good job, Kathy.
Saving the day as usual.
No, not really, I guess. But is that good enough? Is it centered enough?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's great.
Okay.
So if you remember right, they did some plantings along the other side of the post and rail fence as restoration, and that all looked good. And everything seems to be in order for this.
Terrific. If that's the case, let me ask for a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 70 Taplin Ave.
So moved.
Second.
I made the motion. Vinnie seconded the motion. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. Thanks. Next is a request for a certificate of compliance for 16, 16R, and 18R Boutwell Street.
So I went out to these 3 sites too, and they all look well established and accurate, and they look ready to issue.
Okay. So that being the case, could I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance? Are they in fact 3 certificates, or one per property, or is it one for the whole shooting match?
One for all of them, right?
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, one for all.
all right. And all for one, right?
Something like that.
Okay. A certificate of compliance for 16, 16R, and 18R Boutwell Street.
So moved.
Laura made the
Second.
motion. Vinnie seconded the motion. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Don, yes. Next, we have a request for a certificate of compliance for 175 Middlesex Ave.
So I went out there last week as well, and the patio tables and tree, they all look good. Everything looks good out there, so it's ready to also ready to issue.
Okay, I go out of order there. I skipped
Yeah.
Green Meadow. And that's okay, isn't it? Or is it not?
I think it's allowable.
All right, we're going to do it. So could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 175 Middlesex Ave, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, Vinnie seconded the motion. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
You betcha.
Alex,
Yes.
and Don, yes. Backing up now, the request for a certificate of compliance for 25 Green Meadow Drive.
So I went out there, and it looks all good to me.
Good. Could I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 175 Middlesex Ave?
So moved.
Oh, I did that wrong. 25 Green Meadow Drive.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Laura made the motion. Vinnie seconded it. And to the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Oh my God.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and Don. Yes. So a request for a certificate of compliance for 7 Kelly Road.
I went out there and it looks good out there too when I went and conducted my site visit.
Okay. Do we have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 7 Kelly Road?
So move.
Vinnie made the motion.
Second.
Laura seconded. To the vote, Laura,
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. One more to go. I noticed last time we issued a letter of return to compliance for 61 Ashwood Ave.
When we should have instead requested that they submit a request for a certificate of compliance. So they are here in front of you closing out that whole issue with the vegetation clearing with this certificate of compliance.
Okay, so we did something subtly different last week.
We did,
Okay.
but we shouldn't have.
May I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 61 Ashwood Ave?
So moved.
Second.
Laura made the motion. Vinnie seconded the motion. Laura, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vinnie,
Yes.
Ron,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. The time is 7:56. We are 1 minute ahead of the agenda.
Good job, Don.
There is a back side to it though. There's another page to the agenda.
We're
Yeah.
just-
So there's a notice of violation for 1A Kendall Street.
Yeah, I wanted to give you an update on this real quick. Just the homeowner was on the meeting last time. He did provide the engineering calculations. Luke Roy did those. They're in your packet for you to review. He showed that the depression in question that was previously called a bordering vegetated wetland was in fact not bordering, it was isolated. And he also showed that it is not large enough to be considered isolated land subject to flooding. So there's really no jurisdictional area here. And he provided the documentation for that. I confirmed with DEP what would be needed for that. We're going to touch base with them again just to see if we need to write some sort of letter or what needs to happen so that future homeowners and others know that
You're good.
that order does not apply to the property anymore.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
You know, I just realized when I was zipping through the certificates, I should have pulled out of the one for 175 Middlesex, the library, because I'm a library trustee.
Would you like to?
So can we re-vote?
Sure.
Is that the remedy for that?
Yeah, you can recuse yourself and someone else can, I believe it would go to Ron to take that vote then.
Yeah, Ron, would you conduct the vote, make the motion for 175 Middlesex Ave, please?
I'd be glad to.
Give you a hint. I'll make the motion and Vinny will second.
Okay. Accepted.
And it's to issue the certificate of compliance for 175 Middlesex Ave, the library for their outdoor seating area.
Ah,
Does that mean Dawn can't sit there?
Yes. He has to stand.
I'll put my finger over the camera.
Cover your ears.
So Don is recusing himself.
Okay. I don't have a copy of the roll here. Could you call the roll for me, please, Valerie?
Sure. We going right to the vote?
Yes.
Okay. So Laura,
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
and Ron.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, I apologize. That cost us a couple of minutes right there. So we have another discussion item, and that is for 911 Main Street.
Sure. So I wanted to bring this to the commission. It's been, let me just get my notes here. I know the owner of the property is on the meeting too, if you have any questions. But so the order of conditions was approved in December of 2018. So we're approaching, almost 2 years ago. And it was for work that was done without previous approval. And so it was to permit that work and also to sort of change it so that it complied. So there was changes to the stormwater basin, some rearrangement of pavement to make it comply with the riverfront standards and stormwater standards. Construction has not commenced on that project to get it back into compliance. So I've asked the applicant to attend, and I wanted to talk to the commission about talking about certain dates, deadlines to set so that maybe a start of construction date and then a completion of construction date, talk those over, and something reasonable, but to get this project started because it is to get the site back into compliance.
Okay.
So I don't know if the owner has any thoughts about construction schedule. I think what we'd be looking for is some steady progress towards the goal. He did submit plans for last night's meeting at the planning board. They were signed. They needed to be endorsed by the board, needed some revisions and then signed. So that step has been taken. So the next step would be to get everything together for construction.
Okay. I'm looking at, is it Shelley's iPhone that has the owner behind it?
Yeah, hi, good evening.
Hi. Could we have your thoughts on construction, please?
Well, the Attorney Newhouse is working on getting a license agreement with the owner of the landfill behind us. So I'm sure as soon as that's done, we'll be able to come up with some sort of reasonable construction schedule.
I'm sorry, your name, please?
Robert Atenzio.
And how does that figure in? Tell us about the license agreement. What would that, how does that figure into your beginning construction?
Well, apparently there's a little section that is not our property. There's about, I think it's 17 square feet. There's a little triangular piece on the northwest corner.
Is it, I don't have the plans in front of me, obviously, but is it fair to say that that's just a small part of the entire project that has to be completed?
It's maybe about a third.
I mean, do you need a license agreement or can you just get permission from the property owner?
Well, the problem is I think the land's under agreement now with, the problem is the woman that owned the land had referred us to Romer, Reinstein, and Bronstein, a law firm. Mike Newhouse was dealing with Peter Sutton, which was the attorney that was representing the lady that owned it. Apparently now the lady is in the process of transferring the property either to the lawyer. I guess there's an issue with back taxes as well as property ownership. So I'm not 100% sure. I know Attorney Newhouse is working with Attorney Sutton
Okay, why,
in granting us a license to be able to do the work.
can you start on your own property?
Sure, once they give us the okay from the town.
Um,
You have the okay from the town.
Does the okay come from you, Valerie?
Yeah, so like I said, last night they got their plans endorsed from the planning board. They submitted those.
Okay.
So they should be able to get everything together, have a pre-construction meeting, and get to work. I would say for Mr. Tenzio to read through the conditions that were issued by the commission and also to the through the planning board to get any documents that we need prior to construction to us so that we can review those. And I would say if the commission could sort of set a rough schedule for this, that would be helpful. It's been 2 years without almost 2 years without progress. So there are stormwater improvements that need to be made, and those are not on other people's property. So I think that there's work that can be done on the property without an agreement with the adjacent landowner.
And since it's such a small, like 17 square feet out of, the whole landfill property is so minor to the other property owner, I'm surprised that you need a full license and can't just either go with their verbal agreement or, since there's a legal entanglement, just a very brief letter saying, yes, you can do work on 17 square feet of property.
I think what we're looking for is, we can almost assume that will be granted. And
Yeah.
that what we're looking for is just sort of a forward motion.
And that work was encroachment. So it should be that they can remove their things from that property without too much hassle.
Is it reasonable to think that by the end of the plans from the planning board will be available, will be endorsed? Is that the word you use, Valerie?
Yeah, they're being signed. So they voted to sign those. We were waiting for the plans to be revised per the conditions.
Yeah.
So they voted to endorse those, to sign those at last night's meeting. So those will be available early next week. And if we can get the documents needed for prior to construction conditions as soon as possible, and have the construction get started ideally this fall or whatever the commission thinks is reasonable.
So if the plans are available early in the week, it would seem to me that by the end of the week, they would be in the applicant's hands.
Yes.
And,
Yep.
And they would be able to basically start to plan for whatever has to be done.
Yeah, well, even without those plans in hand, they can get their construction documents together and get them to us. If there's prior to construction conditions in the order and in the planning board decision, so they're responsible for getting those things together and getting them to us prior to construction. So they can be doing that now.
Your deadline for the materials for the November 4th meeting is the 21st of October?
It is.
Which is 2 weeks from today. Would that be a reasonable amount of time for, basically, we're saying that everything that they intend to do would be put in place by the 21st so that there could be.
I would say you should think about a deadline for them to start construction and a deadline for them to finish construction.
So can I put out like a deadline to start construction by the end of the year, knowing that they would have to do all the pre-construction drawings and knowing that every contractor is really busy with the plague?
Exactly.
So start construction by the end of the year and finish sometime after that.
Is that sort of what you were looking for, Valerie? Is that generous, or is it,
No, I think that's reasonable. I think start construction by the end of the year and then setting a finish date. I guess the other question is, how formal do you want to make these dates? Do you want to do enforcement with this, or do you want to have agreed to these with the applicant and do enforcement if he doesn't meet those dates? That's the other question. And then I guess I would ask Mr. Attenzio, how long he thinks the construction would take. Again, being generous, you could give him the construction season next summer to complete it. It's really not, I guess it's really not, I don't know that it's a ton of work, so it could be done probably in not too long a time frame, but I don't know.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask the applicant, do you have a preferred schedule that you'd like to request to get the work done?
I think realistically, by the time everything's in place and the weather seems to be going downhill quicker than we thought, we're already into, mid-October. Get all the paperwork and everything all set and start in the spring rather than start and then have to stop if, inclement weather comes in early.
I mean, that would have been fine last year. And I know in my days in construction, they are perfectly capable of working in the winter.
What kind of construction are we talking about anyway?
So they need to reshape the stormwater basin, and they need to pull up some pavement. I can't remember all the little details, but I think that's sort of the majority of the work. And then, of course, any sort of stabilization or seeding would have to happen in the spring. But
let me throw this out. The year sort of ends really about mid-December with the holidays and everything like that. I would say that something ought to start by the middle of December. I'm sure you can take up pavement then, if that's one of the items. I mean, there are things that can be done. Is that right?
yeah, I think we're looking for action, right? It's been a long time without any action out there, without any working towards rectifying the site. So anything that, we've tried our best to get this going administratively, and it just hasn't happened. So
so I'd be tempted to say, to basically order the list in terms of things you can do in the winter and start to do them, and start by mid-December.
Yeah, all that stuff can be done in the middle of winter with frozen ground because heavy equipment can do that. So I mean, knowing holidays, I think it's just as easy to say end of the year and then give
How many days are we talking of actual work?
probably like 3 if they show up.
3 days tops.
That was a wild guess.
A week? I don't think it's extensive.
Yeah.
it's not.
So
And the paperwork's supposed to be wrapped up by the end of October?
at the end of this week.
The end of this week?
Well, so they have to submit that paperwork to us, so it requires action by them. So it really depends on them submitting those things, and then we can hold the pre-construction meeting and they can get started. So, and I know you're a landscaping company, so, I guess we'd really like to get this going. So I think end of the year is very generous for start of construction. And then, finishing construction, what would you say by, July or something like that, so that you have time in the spring to seed and stabilize it.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Give it a chance to get established.
So maybe can we look for some kind of submittal for next month's meeting and a check-in and make sure that you guys have done your paperwork, but also with the expectation that construction will start by the end of the year, or an enforcement order enforcement will occur. And then when construction started, then you'll have until beginning of July of next year to have it seeded and completed.
That sounds reasonable.
Given that it's been as long as it has, I would say we have in other cases levied fines if you don't make the deadline, if you don't start the construction on time. So I think that's something that when you say enforcement, I think it's not just a slap on the wrist. It's, it's going to be costing money.
Yep.
Well, we're in the middle of a worldwide pandemic, and to threaten a fine thing,
Right.
but
It was a pandemic last year.
contractors are very hard to get, very hard to get them to even call back, as you had mentioned yourself, but we'll give it a shot. A little bit of cooperation goes a long way.
It does. It sounds like it's your turn too. So.
Yep.
Okay. Do we have to formalize this somehow, Valerie? Or is it just basically the minutes are going to show that we're asking for construction to start before the end of the year, December 31st, and be completed by July 1st. And if that doesn't happen, we'll consider fines.
Yeah, and it would be an enforcement order with associated fines.
Yes. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, we can.
The finishing and then the completion.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Thanks.
So if either of those deadlines are not met, the commission would then do enforcement with any associated fines.
Thanks.
All right.
Appreciate you being here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So let's see, we have one more thing, do we? And that is two more things. One of them is the administrative tree or shrub removal.
So 109 Aldrich, it's a pretty large dead tree in the backyard just beyond their back fence. And it could definitely be a hazard or danger if it falls into the yard. And I believe it's definitely tall enough that if it fell in the right direction, it would hit the house as well. And I think on dead trees, there's typically no requirement for replacement as well. So I think just cutting it is good. And I believe it's also about 90 feet from the wetlands in the back of the property.
That's the elm tree.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Tell them to go nuts.
Yeah. Okay. So an update on the open space plan.
Yeah, and that's just to let you guys know that I think I mentioned this a while back, but we are working on an update to the open space plan. Mike is on our committee, so he's been representing very well. And we're hoping to reach out to the general public to get some feedback soon. And just wanted to let you know that we're doing this. If you have any questions, you want to be involved, have any have any input for us, just give us a call. And that's really it. The only other thing, it's not on the agenda, but I sent you an email about a training that our attorneys are putting on for how to hold a flawless public hearing. I think it should be good. Let me know if you can attend. And
We don't need it.
We just
that's
had
right. That's
We're
right.
good.
That's right.
We definitely improved from last month.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's see, we have minutes for September 2nd. I've read them over, so and I have a couple things I was going to mention, so if you haven't read them, you do that while on page 9, at the bottom of the page, there's I think there's something that's meant to be stated. The last sentence, the second to the last sentence on the bottom of page 9. About the wetlands is welcome and that it be stated in the maintenance contractor.
Stated, yes.
Okay.
Good catch.
And I just had a question, and I guess in that they're minutes, it's hard to ask the minutes a question, but on page 10, we're talking about the wildlife assessment for Middlesex Ave, Jefferson Road. I didn't actually see maybe I did. I didn't actually see anything that says the kind of wildlife we're talking about. There was a tree inventory, but at some point, is there a discussion about, what are some of the candidates that can live in tree cavities or evidence that there's been something there?
There is a handbook, a guidebook that I can send you a link to that DEP has, and they list all of the habitat features that you're supposed to look for in an evaluation, and then they have sort of a little blurb that says what types of animals may use those things. So for tree cavities, they talk about birds, they talk about small mammals like minks and otters. So, kind of lower cavities, and then I imagine the birds use the higher cavities. So they do talk a little bit about that, but the evaluation is more not whether and what is using it, but that it's there for something to use.
The opportunity exists. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, good. Thanks. Those are my comments on the minutes. Is everybody ready to vote on the minutes? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Could I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for the September meeting? And I think we were all there and we can all vote.
So
Thank you. Laura made the motion. Could I have a second?
Second.
Who made the second? To the vote, Laura,
yes.
Benny,
Yes.
Ron,
yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Don, yes. Okay.
Great.
I guess that's it.
That's it. Thank you all.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next one.
I'll make the motion to close the meeting.
Oh, we got to adjourn. Huh? No. After we adjourn, I can tell whoever is left, if there's anyone, about my cutting down the elm tree story. That was my first big adventure with my new chainsaw. So
And there's a story.
there's a story.
Have it your pain.
Or do you have all of your fingers?
I do. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right. And to the vote, Laura?
Yes.
Vinny,
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Don, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I had a modest